Good afternoon, everyone. So thanks for joining this roundtable discussion. And we are going to talk about a reference architecture, used in the event-enabled legacy core banking system. And my name is Aiken, and I look after the technology partnerships for Solace. And I've been with Solace for more than 10 years and work on several payment solutions. And let me go around the table, for my guests to introduce themselves. Fran, do you want to go first?
Yes, of course. So from Parras, in my case, I'm pre-sales senior manager for Boomi. And yeah, so working along with Aiken and Ori in multiple solutions and multiple customers across EMEA.
Right. Thanks, Fran. And Ori?
Yes, and I'm Ori Bar. I'm the VP Customer Success at Open Legacy, and I'm looking forward to share with you some of the amazing things we're doing together with Boomi and Solace.
Great. Right. So today we'll be discussing around this reference architecture that hopefully you can see on the screen now, and to address a particular but very common challenge that banks are facing. And the story starts as in like you got your legacy, typically mainframe system on-prem and containing, critical, let's say, customer data that you want to share with your digital banking platforms or other SaaS offerings in cloud, right? And orchestrate kind of business flows and then across those platforms. So a typical use case is the omnichannel payment solution, right? The first challenge, banks are facing and is how to unlock your legacy assets where building APIs around them has traditionally been very time and resource consuming. And Ori, based on your experience in this industry, and how do you tackle that?
You're in mute, Ori.
Here we go. Let's try again. So thanks, Aiken. It's a really great question. So what we actually see, we see many enterprises actually struggling with the complexity of their legacy environments. So legacy is not a bad thing. You've been around for 15, 20, 30, 50 years doing the work, but it's very difficult to integrate with. And that could be many things. So we see many mainframes of different flavors. We see all kind of mid-ranges, S400s. We see Unisys, Microfocus, all kind of all oracles and other databases. We see all MQs and programming languages such as COBOL and PL1. We see ERP systems and much more. And this complexity is actually preventing the companies from reacting to the business demands. They're just moving too slow to be part of this new API economy. So what we see actually at Open Legacy, we see around the market, there is a clear need for a solution providing something which is a cloud native. So people don't want to be on-prem, they want to start to move towards a cloud. They want to be very flexible, and they want a very nice and efficient way to access these old legacy systems. Some of the main areas we actually identify as critical is first of all the automation. So automate creation of system APIs, it's good. So many times when people are talking about something which is handmade or handcrafted, people think, wow, that's quality. Unfortunately, this is not the case when we talk about APIs. So what we are working on building with our customers is actually an API factory. So how do you do it in a very fast, very standard, and very clear manner? We look a lot on scalability. So what you create have to be scalable. So microservices-based architecture is a good solution. It's giving agnostic deployment. It's had the built-in scalability, and we're actually talking to some insurance companies. They got a serious hit during the COVID because they're just not able to deal with the load. So what do you do about it? And that's exactly what we're implementing for these guys at the moment. We also look at the skills. So if you look at the legacy skills, these people actually retire. So it's very difficult to find and recruit the right skills for the legacy. And by exposing legacy into something more modern, we actually give the possibility to improve and enrich things on the open side. And last but not least, we're not intrusive, right? So what we're saying is don't change your legacy. We expose it as is. We're not intrusive. The risk is really low. And all the above is actually the cornerstone of our offering and strategy.
Yeah, that's very nice. Thanks, Ori. And so now we got like the legacy data unlocked and kick off the whole API adoption journey. And Fran, could you share with us what are the key considerations going through this journey of bridging between legacy systems and the public and private cloud?
Thank you so much, Aiken and Ori, right? In this case, the key element for us, right, at the end, when we want to tackle those different problems, is two different aspects, right? Or for one side, we need to understand the regulations, right? So being able to understand where we need to process that data is critical. The second aspect as well of this element is, how we want to do that specific orchestration. In this scenario, I'm thinking on in specific for this architecture as well, combining Open Legacy, Boomi, and Solace is absolutely perfect, right? Because we can use the service mesh in this case the event mesh from, in this case, Solace, to do that specific orchestration, and we can cherry pick from Boomi perspective where we want to process that data. To give you an example, key element for payments will be, well, we need to extract that data from the mainframe. We can, combine Open Legacy and Boomi together. We can use, in this case, Solace, potentially, right, to send that data through in this case, the event mesh to the, certain location that we need to process that data. And we can use Boomi in that specific location to process that data as well, right? So those type of benefits, those type of flexibilities are starting to be more relevant to avoid the complexity, right? And to reduce the time to market of those different integration scenarios. So the combination of those three different, products in a one big solution is super important. So with Boomi, for instance, drag and drop, create a new integration process with, Solace and Open Legacy together is just bread and butter, right? It's super easy to create as well.
Yeah, thanks, Fran. So you mentioned about event-driven architecture and also event mesh as well, right? So adopting the EDA could be very daunting, the whole journey, and then especially with the banking environment being so complex and often located in multiple regions across the globe, right? So this is where really kind of the event mesh layer comes in. Event mesh, some people may have heard of it, is effectively a network of event brokers that sit in clouds or on-prem data centers or at the edge of the IoT gateways, etc. So the purpose is to move data or events. So in this case, like events it could be in the form of piece of data or could be in form of a service invocations, right? Effectively, it's just a messages, messages are flowing around. So the concept is very similar to service mesh, where it supports the communications between request reply type of, mostly RESTful microservices. And event mesh enables more async, pops up type of event-driven microservices. So the event mesh basically routes the on-prem legacy data, to their customers, consumers in clouds, and triggered all the business process in different cloud environments. And these business processes could be the usual asynchronous business flows, such as payment initializations, validators, funding, or risk and clearing, or could be a whole bunch of async type of business flows. Could be the cross-sell, upsell microservices, or could be risk and audit analytics, etc. So this is all working on the same piece of data at the same time, try to actually add value to the whole, synchronous process. Most of those asynchronous business process are really the key business differentiators to provide more real-time customer experience and operation efficiency improvement. So, it's actually good to see that the async API and the sync API are really working hand in hand in providing this more modern and omnichannel payment solution framework. And talking about omnichannel payment solution framework, you can see on the diagram there, we got, like, for example, the payments coming from stores, POS, or coming from mobile phones, and or coming from the new generations of payment use cases. For example, smart cities or connected cars. So we're talking about, for example, in-car payments. This is all like the financial services applications in kind of daily life, right? And also notice the the little kind of Superman icon, that apps. So we're really talking about super apps there. So super apps is concept of like not only just a single app or single channel get the customer a request for payment or request for purchase in. It's all about like how in this super app environment, how you actually talk to different open APIs from different applications. So a good example will be like when you actually browse through a property that you want to buy, right? The same app may also connect to like land registry through the open API, the credit check kind of open API, or maybe banks kind of mortgage open API. This is a whole bunch of open API getting aggregated into one place, right? So how you actually handle by one click, and then you trigger all kind of different connections into different cloud environment, because they're all located in different environment to start with, and then trigger those business flows via Boomi, and trigger those business flows in those environments, and then getting the decision back and kind of fan into your little super app, right? So this is what we're really talking about, omni-channel payments, not multi-channel, right? It's actually really kind of multi-channel coming in, but sharing data at the back end, sharing the process at the back end, and trigger multiple business process at the back end to make sure you get the best kind of customer experience. So this is a modern day challenge basically. And then don't forget, like, this is not only just we're talking about we can see some logos that are talking about SAP ERP system. They're talking about the new generation of maybe CRM system or other systems in your enterprises. We're talking about whole new set of SaaS offering in clouds, and then they appear every day. So how do you get also integrate with those new offering easily into that event mesh, right? So with the event mesh concept, the whole thing become much more fluid. So you could just be a listener, a consumer to that event mesh, and effectively you're getting the data streaming out of the legacy, going into your apps via Boomi. So this is a very cool type of event-driven architecture concept. But another thing I like to mention is on the actual governance, right? Event-driven architecture could be very messy. Lots of pops up, lots of like message flowing around. How do you stop people not publishing the data that we don't want, and then stopping people to subscribe to data that they shouldn't be? So this is what the kind of whole event-driven governance coming in, and Solace has this event portal, which is very similar to API portal, covering all the capability of discovering events or cataloging events, and then also, of course, they put the whole security and configuration, management and control into one place. Okay, so right, so this is what's a kind of event-driven event mesh is about for the omni-channel payment solution. And one of the biggest challenges in payment industry is the regulations and also the multiple jurisdictions. And Fran, could you help us to understand how do we take on this challenge with this architecture?
Yes, of course. So what I was highlighting before, right? So let me give you a couple of examples from a regulation perspective. So multi-location, multi-processing is one of the biggest challenges. But we need to bear in mind as well, right? The regulations requires much better data quality, right? Again, the combination of these three solutions is absolutely perfect, because I can cherry pick where and when and how we want to tackle those different data quality problems, right? And I know sounds really typical talk about data quality, but in payments, for instance, today, right, is part of the critical path, right? So sometimes certain data that is potentially missing, or sometimes certain validations, part of the business process that needs to be covered as well. Again, when you need to tackle those different requests to the mainframe, right, to process that data, or you need to potentially articulate against support from human interventions, human beings, right, to do certain checks or validations. This is something as well that the event mesh along with Boomi and Open Legacy are critical as well to address, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Fran. So traditionally, payments are initiated by legacy system like core banking system, for example, where the underlying technology is often legacy based that we know of. Then you have a big headache of dealing with a different type of old and new formats or standards across system boundaries, right? Especially for cross jurisdiction payments where you actually see so many boundaries in between. So Ori, could you share with us your experience in bridging this gap?
Yeah, definitely. So actually, I think just to understand this, let's try and spool like 20 years back, right? Where system-oriented architecture, service-oriented architecture just got introduced. Gartner mentioned the name Enterprise Service Bus for the first time, and the whole integration world was based on some kind of monolithic approach. That there is some kind of enterprise service bus, a big, heavy monolith sitting in the middle, taking care of everything. Uh, what we are doing at Open Legacy, we're actually trying to change this perception, right? So we're not a layer, we're not even a layer in runtime. What we do, we have a very intelligent way of to connect to everything which is old or complex, and so on, because we know how to understand metadata for all these kind of systems. So what we're doing, we understand the metadata, we can connect to it in a non-intrusive way, and we build microservices. They can they can expose this legacy and core functionality. So look at the combination, the way it can work together. Solace, so we know how to talk to anything. Solace know how to take care of the event and the event mesh and actually make sure things get securely from one place to the other. And we have Boomi, which is able to orchestrate and deal with flow and deal with all the business complexity around it. So with it's a very efficient way where each one of the three partners here in this architecture is doing what they're good at. So we provide the legacy connectivity. We act naturally as part of kind of seamless atoms within Boomi. Solace know how to take care of all the event mesh, all the events going forth and back. And this way we kind of get rid of many traditional layers. What we're doing, we're making the chain much shorter. We're removing the unnecessary links, and the result is almost a magical impact on speed and efficiency.
Yeah, thank you, Ori. This is great. So just to add on what Ori just said about the whole kind of enterprise service bus, the ESB approach, or along with the SLA approach, that this is still kind of very commonly used in lots of banking platforms. But this architecture is kind of heavy because it's all centralized. Kind of orchestrating is all pretty much on-prem, and moving kind of this kind of business flow into the cloud environment. That's exactly what the iPaaS layer like Boomi actually positioning. And then how that's the business process side of it, but how you actually move data, or events in this case, from the kind of on-prem legacy into the cloud. That's where Solace comes in, right? So this really complete the whole picture, as Ori just mentioned. So yes, so thank you very much, Ori and Fran. I think just to summarize, very briefly, you see that we have a really cool technology into opening up the mainframe or the other kind of legacy system, not only just data, but also the business flow, to make it, a modernized version of that platform. So again, it's not kind of replacing the mainframe, but modernizing it, and then move this kind of, data or business process out of this area into the different, modern day distributed cloud environment via kind of the event mesh concept. So whole thing become very loosely coupled, very scalable, very, secure, because it's all centralized governed. And then, via the Boomi business flow to actually go into kind of different driving the different business flow in different cloud environments. And then all the decision making, all the kind of response data will go back into the event mesh and then trigger maybe the next level of business flows, or actually go into the go back to the legacy system to upgrade the legacy system if required, right? So this is quite kind of a perfect modern modern architecture we're talking about. So thank you very much, guys, and the audience here for this interesting discussion. And feel free to get in touch, and because we know there's quite a few questions asked in the for this panel. So we will address that separately. They're very interesting questions there. We will definitely get in touch and discuss more. And if you want to know more about the solution, or in fact, if you want to actually see a demo, we actually put a demo together between Boomi, OpenXC, and Solace. So just let us know. No, thank you very much. Okay, so I think that's the end of it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a lovely day.